It has been a long quarantine. I'm not feeling well. My hair is far too long because I haven't been able to get a haircut. I'm just really sick. But Valentine's Day is on Sunday and I couldn't think of a better time to discuss this topic. So here we go, and let's hope I don't throw up in the process. First, this video has to pose a question. The question that'll probably be the title of this video. Was the Doctor ever in love? My answer is yes. But probably not in the way that you're wanting me to have it be yes. Look at the state of me. The most common answer that people resort to when posed with the question, was the Doctor ever in love? They say yes, Rose. He fell in love with Rose. My opinion on that whole dumpster fire of a storyline is not very popular. Or I say more so that I have met more people who are on the other side of the, oh, they were madly in love, than the, no they weren't kind of side. Don't get me wrong, I love the backbone idea of why people think the Doctor and Rose were in love. Because the Doctor, Christopher Eccleston's Doctor, had just come out of the Time War. He did whatever was done during the Time War, and he had to do what he had to do to end it. Whether you believe that the 50th anniversary is an astute representation of what it was that he did, or if you're like me and you think it's kind of, it was terribly written and you don't want to believe that that was it. Whatever it was, it scarred him whether he could remember it fully or not. And Rose was the first companion he had after that. And Rose helped him heal. Because the more time they spent together, the more he opened up, and the more he was recovering from his trauma. And I like that idea, I do. I particularly like Christopher Eccleston and Billie Piper together. I loved their team up, I loved them as a duo. Because it wasn't all focused on love and am I special and blah 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 that happens when David Tennant comes in. It was more focused on their friendship and their connection with each other and how they were helping each other be better and heal and recover from whatever trauma Christopher Eccleston had. And Christopher Eccleston had trauma, but trauma with the Doctor that the Doctor had, and the Doctor helped Rose experience the world and the world beyond, other worlds, aliens, everything they did, and he helped her be better too. I love that, I do. I think that is a brilliant setup for backbone setup of their relationship. I think that's brilliant, but I don't necessarily think that means that they have to be in love with each other. Christopher Eccleston himself said in his autobiography, I Love the Bones of You, he said, I didn't want the Doctor and Rose to kiss when Rose was infected with bad wolf because I thought that it cheapened everything that kind of, like I'm paraphrasing here, I think it kind of cheapened everything that they had built up to before that. Like, they didn't have to kiss, they didn't have to be like madly in love with each other for their relationship to be important. And I kind of agree. The Doctor and Rose don't really, in season 1, don't really spend a lot of time kind of focusing on like being in love with each other or anything like that. The kiss does kind of come out of nowhere at the end when Rose is infected by bad wolf. And you can tell that it is for like dramatic purposes, and I can imagine Christopher Eccleston, the way that he approaches his acting and the stories that he likes to tell, I do imagine that would be something that he would try to protest against, or sort of say, do we really need it? Apparently they thought yes, because, you know, dramatic purposes and all that. And I'll admit, I cry like a bitch at the in the parting of the ways. Even when he kisses Rose, I cry like a bitch, even though I don't believe that they're falling in love with each other, or I don't want to believe that they're making us think they're falling in love with each other. I still cry like a bitch. That double-parter, that finale, is still my favourite out of all of New Who, just for the fact that every single time I watch it, without fail, I cry. It stirs that emotional response in me every single time. Now, when David Tennant came in, that's a different matter. I don't know whether it was because David Tennant was younger. Y'all know what I mean, though. You know, he was younger, the mums started tuning in more. Whether he's actually young or not, I don't know. Younger than Christopher Eccleston, I don't know. What my point is that David Tennant came in, young, fresh-faced, everyone was in love with him because of, well, because he was a great Doctor, but also you cannot deny that a lot of people fancied the arse of him. So because of that, I think that influenced Russell T Davis's portrayal of him and Rose's relationship quite a bit. I think Russell T Davis knew that people were going to see David Tennant this way, and he kind of bigged up the romance between him and Rose, and it got very annoying. I think I've talked about this before when I was talking about is there sexism in Doctor Who in my new Who version of the video, because Rose gets very, am I special? I thought I was special, but it turns out that you leave people behind, and there's been loads of people before me. Am I just a statistic? Blah, 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 blah. And, you know, yes, bitch, there's been people before you. He's like 900 and something. Get over it. And that kind of all the way leads up to when they get separated, and he says Rose Tyler, and people always mistake that he says Rose Tyler I before he gets cut off, but he doesn't. He says Rose Tyler cut off. So it is heavily implied that he was going to say Rose Tyler, I love you. I'm not going to be deluded and say otherwise, but I don't like it. I don't like the idea that they make him fall in love with her. I don't want to believe. I know they want us to, and they make it even worse when they meet again, and Rose is like, no, I just got back, you can't change your face, which is kind of like, are you in love with the Doctor or are you in love with his face? Because I thought the whole point of this is that you're in love with the Doctor, you're not in love with David Tennant. So Russell T Davis decided to make Rose unbearable once Christopher Eccleston left, which is unfortunate because I really did like Rose and Christopher Eccleston's Doctor's rapport in series 1, but I suppose that's just the way it goes. Not that Russell T Davis is probably the best writer Doctor Who has ever had, because, well, you know my opinions on Stephen Moffat and Chris Chibnall, so I wouldn't berate him for that. I think the majority of the stories in series 2 was still quite good. Fear Her and Love and Monsters aside, they can be enjoyable if you're in the right mood for them, but yikes. But there are quite a few decent stories in series 2 besides that, so I'm not going to blast Russell T Davis for that, but it was definitely not needed. I don't think that it's needed for the companions to fall in love with the Doctor, for their companionship to, like, be special. That's why Donna resonated with a lot of people, because it was based on their friendship. And I love Martha to death, but Russell T Davis did not give her a fair run because the Doctor was constantly comparing her to Rose because they were in love. And going back into Classic Who for a bit, I don't think people would have been able to cope with the fact that, like, sometimes companions died and they were never mentioned again. Never mentioned again. By the Doctor, by anyone, because that's just the way it was back then. They didn't feel like you had to, like, make the next companion feel terrible because you came after Adric and Adric died, and you know what, he was so young and it's your fault and you're never going to be like Adric. Although no one liked Adric, but still, you see my point. I don't even think if the Doctor was in love with Rose, he would have behaved like that towards anyone. I don't want to believe that the guy, that the fictional character that I looked up to ever since I was a kid would treat someone like that, so that's unfortunate as well. And all that just accumulates to me not buying that they were in love. So, Rose, I don't believe they were in love. I know the writers want me to believe they're in love, but I just don't buy it. So, Rose, no. Then we have River. My problem with River is that she was written by Stephen Moffat. Bless her heart, when Stephen Moffat wasn't head writer and he wrote Silence in the Library and he created River, there was a load of mystery and intrigue, and I actually wanted to know who she was to the Doctor. But because Stephen Moffat, when he became head writer, I don't know, he didn't know how to control himself, or he just had no idea what he was going to make River when he wrote her. He just dropped the ball. He dropped the ball so hard, and it just makes watching Silence in the Library, to me, a bit sad, because the reveal ends up being pretty pathetic on who she is. And, like, she ends up being like, oh, she's the Doctor's wife, because they marry, but do they marry? Because there's a whole suspicion on whether that was a real wedding ceremony or not, but again, it's a situation of, I don't buy it. I don't see in River anything that puts her aside from anyone else the Doctor has ever met that would make him fall in love with her. And don't do the whole, oh, she's a child of the TARDIS BS, because that is so fanfiction-y, I can't even comprehend it. Like, I can't fully process in my brain how anyone can take that seriously. That she's a child of the TARDIS and the TARDIS taught her how to fly her. And I don't care how well the TARDIS taught River how to fly her either. The TARDIS is supposed to be flown by 8 pilots, so whether River knew the inside and out of every single button on the console, she would still struggle like the Doctor struggles, because it's supposed to be piloted by 8 people, not 1. I don't care if the TARDIS told you itself, chucked the instruction manual at you and zoomed it into your brain. You would still struggle because you are 1 person and it's supposed to be piloted by 8 people. But then Moffat doesn't care about that. Moffat doesn't care about anything like that. He just writes his characters, turns them into Mary Sues, and then calls Rose a Mary Sue for some reason. And River kept coming back. River couldn't get a decent ending. Like Clara. I don't like Clara, but Clara didn't get a decent ending because Moffat kept bringing her back. He kept dragging her back into the story for no reason whatsoever, apart from the fact that he wanted them back. It's the same with the Weeping Angels. He ruined the Weeping Angels. They're not even fucking scary anymore because he brought them back so much. And it's the same with River. River doesn't feel as special anymore because he brought her back every 5 minutes for no reason whatsoever, apart from the fact that he wanted people to gasp and be like, oh, it's River. So I don't buy it. I don't care that they're married. I don't care that there's the whole, you just wait until my husband gets home and hello honey, I'm home. I don't care about all that shit. I don't buy it. It just rings too much like someone writing their OC into a fan fiction. OC is an original character, usually a self-insert of the writer, making them the child of the TARDIS who can fly the TARDIS better than the Doctor, and then bringing them back every 5 minutes, having them get married because she's so special, and then even if she's dead or whatever, she's still coming back. It cheapened Silence of the Library, it cheapened River's End, and the fact that they said, oh yeah, he takes her to this planet or whatever when he knows that River is going to the library to die for one last night together, you think, oh my god, that's so special. No, Moffat shits on that too, because he has Peter Capaldi be like, you know, like one night on this planet is like 1,000 years or something like that. Like, you just shat on it. You just shat on something that was so special. One last night together before they had to go to the library, and then you're like, oh no, it was 1,000 years anyway, so don't buy it. Sorry, I don't mind River as a character. She's not as annoying as, say, Clara or Bill, but I still have a lot of problems with her. So who is it that I think that the Doctor was in love with? A lot of people seem to forget that the Doctor had a family. He references his family quite a bit. The Doctor had a wife, he had children, he probably had a father, a mother. People suspect that in David Tennant's last episode, that woman was his mother. I don't know whether I buy that or not, but he had a family, so he has been in love before, and I'm not saying because he lost them that he doesn't deserve to fall in love again. That's not what I'm saying. But I just don't see how any of these people that he met after the Time War, because he meets Rose right after the Time War, so I don't see how he could meet this human person, this human girl, right after his family has died and fall in love with her, like right on the backbone of his, right on the tails of his entire family being slaughtered in Gallifrey. I just don't see it. And I don't want to know much about the Doctor's family, because such is in the same vein as you don't want to know his name because nothing is ever going to live up to what you're expecting. It won't feel like it's potent enough or like deep enough because it's been built up so much. But the only thing that I believe the Doctor has felt pure love for that wasn't about, like, wasn't Jenny, because Jenny had his DNA, another kind of fan fiction-y thing, but it was only for one episode, so at least it wasn't too bad, was his wife and his children. And maybe that's some people's excuse about why he didn't fall in love with classic companions, because he had his family back home. But he was very evidently running from something, and that, I think, is best kept as a mystery as well, when he went off with Susan, his granddaughter. Again, if we're going to talk about people that we've seen on screen, the only person I would genuinely believe he loved with all of his heart was his granddaughter Susan, because she's his granddaughter. Maybe I'm just a cynical bitch. I don't know. Maybe I'm just loveless, and I've only ever celebrated Valentine's Day with a girlfriend once, and it's just turned me into this big cynical asshole who doesn't want to see anyone happy, including the doctor. I wouldn't care so much if I could actually buy it, if I believed it. If they gave me someone who I thought, yeah, I believe it, he's in love with her. But they just haven't given me that. And I actually feel envious of the people who can believe it and can throw themselves into that fantasy. But I just can't, unfortunately. So, kind of a depressing message for Valentine's Day, that the only people the doctor loved are now dead. Except Susan. Susan might still be knocking around somewhere, because she's a time lady, so she's knocking around somewhere in the 22nd century. Although I feel like there's audio stories that have said that she's done other things, but I haven't listened to any audio stories, so. So what are your thoughts down below? Did you think the doctor loved Rose? Do you think he loved River? Do you think he loved anyone else? Do you think that, like me, that he just loved his family? Or you just can't buy that he loved any of the characters in You Who? Let me know down below. Follow my socials. Don't follow me if you don't want to. I don't want you there if you don't want to be there. Buy my book. The link is in the description. And I'll see you next time, guys. And remember, celebrate Valentine's Day whichever way you want. You don't have to have someone to enjoy the day, okay? You can be bitter and cynical like me. Be single and happy about it, or try to pretend that you're happy about it. Whatever way you want. Buy yourself some cake and love yourself this Valentine's Day, okay? Because you don't need another person to complete you. And I feel like I'm going to throw up, so goodbye, and I'll see you next time.